Hey, we are live. So wonderful. Today is our second installment of the Empowering Rare Givers. Welcome to our World Series, and we're just thrilled. Dr. Laura Riordan and Laura is joining from Portugal, Lisbon, Portugal, and I am joining today from Boston, Massachusetts, and then our guest is in Luxembourg. So I'm going to turn this over to Laura, and Laura has the opportunity to meet our guest in the past in person. So I'll ask her to introduce Carole.
Yes, welcome everyone. We're very fortunate today to have Dr. Carole Linster join us. We've asked her here today because she is the Associate Professor in Biochemistry at the Luxembourg Center for Systems Biomedicine, which is LCSB, where I was able to go and be with the team there and look at their laboratory. And I'll say a little bit more of that in a minute. But she is heading the enzymology and metabolism group since 2013. Carole has studied biomedical sciences at the medical factory of UC Leuven in Brussels, Belgium. And after completing her PhD at the Duve Institute in Brussels, she moved to the United States, where she did a postdoctoral fellow at UCLA and discovered enzymes that plants depend on to produce vitamin C. And during that period at UCLA and a second postdoctoral stay back in Brussels, Carole and coworkers discovered several new enzymes of human metabolism involved in the breakdown of metabolic side products that become toxic when left to accumulate. In collaboration with researchers from Australia, the United States, and the United Kingdom, the Linster Group identified a novel infantile rare neurodegenerative disorder that is caused by the deficiency of one of those metallite repair enzymes, NAXD. Linster Group also actively develops rare disease models in yeast, zebrafish, and human cells for mechanistic investigations of inborn errors of metabolism and preclinical testing of small molecule treatments. And that is so important because it's not only helping the rare community, it's also eventually going to be helping people with all sorts of neurological disorders. And I was fortunate to go and visit her there and look at their labs and look at the zebrafish that they're working with, which are amazing that they're able to really utilize these very tiny fish to activate like human cells and try. Oh, I mean, I'm going to let her speak about this, but try many different chemicals uh, to find these cures, these enzymes, and it's just mind blowing when you see it all actually at work. So, very, very big welcome to you, Carole, to be with us today. And what we're doing with this series is Welcome to Our World, is exploring the various aspects of our world and the leaders who are either on the cutting edge like you are or have been in the rare disease community for a long time and have a lot of wisdom to share. So I also have asked you for any nuggets of wisdom that you can share with us. But we'll just kick us off by looking at kind of where is
Yeah,
do you,
well, I want to hear from Carol. Thank you for
I'm sorry, going to ask her
that
a question, so
amazing
you go ahead.
introduction. No, it was such a great introduction. But Carol, like, just in your words, because we got your bio and it's so impressive. And I'm like, oh my gosh, tell us your story. Tell us your story.
Well, my story is so I was in this the Duve Institute, which and the Duve, I maybe I can start by that, is a Nobel Prize winner for having discovered small compartments in our cells that are called the lysosomes. And lysosomes actually often are dysfunctional in rare diseases. So there is a whole group of inherited rare diseases that are caused by defects of those lysosomes. And so I was in that institute, I did my master thesis, and then I did my PhD thesis. So I worked on enzymes, but always in connection with these rare metabolic diseases. So I was, from the start, I was reading papers about this. So from a very fundamental point of view, but it was always connected to these diseases. And I think it was always the motor, the driving force behind my very fundamental research that is difficult to explain. But I think it motivates me. And also I notice very much in my research group, it's something that is always our, when things are difficult, it's always our light at the end of the tunnel, that we know that all these efforts, they go towards something that can really help people. And I mean, sometimes it's not going to, in their lifetime, effectively directly help them on the medical point of view. But I see when we present our work and patient families are there, just the knowledge to see that we do that work on their diseases, that already helps them so much, and it gives us really a lot of energy, I have to say.
I'm just, it's so interesting how life brings people into your world. So I
Yeah.
just have to make a note here. So two things. The first is world. We are organizing research on lysosomal disorders. The
Okay.
World Conference was
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
in
Yeah.
San Diego just about a month ago.
Yeah.
It's been running for 21 years now. And so I'm excited to share this
Yeah.
conversation with all of the people that I know in lysosomal storage
Yeah.
um, diseases. And the reason I know people
Okay.
in lysosomal is because three of my four older brothers were
Okay.
born with Hunter syndrome,
I see.
mucopolysaccharidosis type 2. So um, David, Jared, and Randy passed away in the 1980s. They were 12, 18, and 19 years old when they passed. So our family was very deeply impacted by this disease area that you are
Yeah.
doing this amazing research in. So I just like, I'm sitting here, I have chills
Yeah,
up and
and
down my
it's just
arms,
coming together
and I'm like,
directly.
oh my gosh, okay,
Yeah.
of course we're meant to work together and do some like amazing things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so thank you for the work that you do. And I'm curious, what is your like person, like take us back to high school or college.
Yeah.
How did you decide to even go into this field? I'm so
Into this field.
curious. Yeah.
I think I was always driven by I mean this aspect of finding things that we don't, I mean, observing and understanding, so the biology side of things, the scientific side of things. And my obsession was to work in something where I don't do the same any single day, every day should be different. So research seemed like a very promising field for that, and it's indeed the case. I think we just do different things all the time. But I was always, I mean, so I wanted to do something with that scientific aspect, but I really love the medical side in terms of helping and doing something for human health and well-being. And but I needed to combine it. So medical doctor was just not going to fulfill this search for knowledge, and so research in biomedical sciences was quite a fitting
Amazing.
perspective, I would say.
Amazing. Well, I could think of 100 different directions to take this conversation. Laura, where do you think we should go next? I always turn to your wisdom, this intuition you have.
Well, just a few things, and I'm so glad that you two are meeting. A few things are just that I love that passion, and that's what I that definitely felt in being with you. That the application and the way that you can do that your work actually really helps real people out there, and then like you said, potentially many more as we
Mhm.
progress. And so I'm just curious, how you get to see, and when, the families that do connect with you,
Mhm.
um, what are they interested in? Like, what is that kind of kismet feeling, and how does that kind of come out?
Yeah, it can. I mean, I think it's very different, uh, many different ways that we have contacts, and also like how they are interested. So it can be, now we are in Europe, and I assume in the US, we are organizing our research in, we have to, right? You said the world, and we just need to connect across countries, and our expertise and our, because families are spread around the globe, and we are so much stronger and more efficient in progressing if we see all the families of one given disease, or more families of one given disease. So joining force is extremely important, and we have organized our funding also in a way that we kind of are obliged to collaborate, but which is very good. So we have this European consortia, and I'm working in one that is, for lysine metabolism disorders, others for mitochondrial disorders. So within these consortia now, it's patient organizations are also involved. So we always have in our scientific meetings representatives of patient organizations, and so that we really incorporate that aspect from the very beginning of when we start our projects, so that we really orient our experiments with the patient point of view in mind, because of course we on the one hand we need to remain focused. I mean, it's the kind of thing where we know the urgency of the patients, but we cannot push our our science. I mean, it takes just some time to make the findings and so on, but at the same time having always like the perspective somewhere in the ear and in the mind influences the way that we are going to prioritize, the experiments that we do, and the way that we do them. So that is one aspect. It's really having the patients influence the way we do our research in a way that then, our research goes more directly, hopefully, or in a better way to doing meaningful things for their diseases. Very recently I had that was so I was so grateful for that feedback. So actually we had found these small molecule compounds that help our zebrafish with a rare disease, and we had no clue if it's gonna be useful in humans as well, because after all there are still some difference between the fish and the humans. But
Come on, I got my zebra on. I got my zebra on.
Yeah, that's perfect connection.
I'm ready for Rare Disease Day, and it's
A
coming
little
up.
bit as well.
There you go. Fine, Laura, we got to get you on the zebra bandwagon here. Okay, keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No problem. No, so I got this email from the US, actually from a retired university professor, who told me that he was so happy to read my paper, because on his own initiative, because he's himself a medical doctor, or was a medical doctor, had started taking this compound independently of our publication, and his symptoms are much better. And for us, that's such a, he didn't have to do this, right? But he sent us this message and shared this super important and precious knowledge. So at the same time, it was like super motivating, of course, to get like a confirmation in real life of this finding.
Okay, I have to do my disclaimer for a minute. We're not proposing that the community start taking compounds.
No,
This
yeah,
is
exactly. But
this
it
is
was completely independent of our article,
okay.
right?
Oh my
But
gosh. Yeah.
but it was really for the researchers in my group, it was so motivating and rewarding, to just get, because he was very much encouraged by the work, that there was also scientific evidence now for this.
Absolutely. And you've been talking sort of about these international collaborations, and it gets really interesting taking the science, taking the research out of the lab, putting it into an actual pharmaceutical or something that can be, uh, consumed, injected, brought into the human body. And then as we look around the world, there's all of these approval processes that are different, government by government, country by country. So I think that actually there's a really interesting opportunity for nutraceuticals, these kinds of sort of bringing these, as you mentioned, compounds into just a pure holistic form. And we see that in our vitamin supplements and industry in the United States. But can you talk about that? How are we going to get these benefits into families and into?
No, it's true that there are all these hurdles. I think there are many efforts also to streamline this with the orphan drug designations and all this. So, and we get as researchers also more and more educated about this, let's say, because it's becoming almost part of our projects, to include work packages on in our preclinical work to design our experiments in the way that it will get more rapidly approved in terms of, and so we include actually, like people in our teams that then already early on get in contact with the regulatory authorities to make sure that, we do already the experiments in a way that they will say, okay, now we have all the evidence that we want to see, that we can start a clinical trial, for example. So hopefully, we are all working together that this becomes more efficient, because of course it's ridiculous if we have the drug, the compounds that maybe help. By the way, the one that I mentioned was a repurposed, so it was a drug that was already approved for something else, right? So it was not that he was taking anything
off-label. No, we call that, what do we call that? Off-label. But thank you for clarifying that.
No problem.
Good to know.
Even my son has taken it already, so it's really not something. But for the nutraceuticals, I'm very sensitive to that aspect, because metabolic diseases are really, for that aspect, also motivating to work on, because indeed sometimes supplementations with vitamins is doing miracles, and it's actually one of the diseases that we identified with the team in Australia at Murdoch Children's Research Institute in Melbourne. So it was a disease that where children they develop actually fine, and then they can have like just infection, a benign infectious disease, or even a hit against the head or something that then triggers a rapid neurological decline and regression. And I mean, as often with these diseases, medical doctors were kind of clueless at the beginning what's going on. All the suspect genes were not changed. And so in this case, it happened to be one of these enzymes that we had worked on independently of the disease. And so because we had published on it, the doctors contacted us, and rapidly we could confirm that it's this gene that is involved in this new disease. And this gene actually, what it does is that it repairs constantly, or the product of this gene repairs like a vitamin derivative in our organism, vitamin B3 actually. And very rapidly then the doctors, having that biochemical knowledge now, started giving vitamin B3 to the children, and it has very, very positive effects. So they had very severe skin rashes as well. They are gone. And in terms of what we know for now is that the neurological symptoms are stabilized. So we continue to work to find additional, things maybe more specific. But this vitamin B3 already is doing very positive things. So, and it's certainly not with big second thoughts that you can take it. So
amazing. Amazing. So this concept, and I love it because not so many researchers are talking about well-being,
Hmm.
right? Are talking about this sort of
Yeah,
this holistic health approach.
yeah.
And I was at a conference yesterday, the Rare Disease Summit. Here in Boston, sponsored by the Boston Globe. And there was a lot of conversation about holistic well-being.
Hmm.
And as you know, at Raregivers, we are about the science and the medical health, but also the mental and
Yeah,
emotional
sure.
health
Hmm.
of our rare families.
Yeah.
And not just the families, but the professionals
Yes.
who are also on the journey. So
Yeah.
you're on the journey with us, right? And everybody in the Linster group as well.
Yeah.
So if you could maybe talk about how is the vibe in the lab? Tell us what you're trying to do in Luxembourg. And obviously you're a very positive, upbeat person, but how do you keep in balance? What are your self-care go-tos, personally, but also others in the lab? How do you keep morale going?
Well, morale, I think morale for research, I mentioned one, right? And it's just this, you have long stretches of, I don't know, negative results, hypothesis not being confirmed and so on, and you want to give up. But the days where you have actually like a breakthrough and so on, they are just always so energizing, not only for me, but also for the people in my lab, that they kind of make you overcome much of the rest. And in my case, I think, so in our case, this I see the young people, so my PhD students and postdocs as well, many of them get a different sense by doing the research on those rare diseases. So they are really driven by that. So I have now, one postdoc that was very productive in the lab. Now she's in the Netherlands continuing this type of work. And she's also like super engaged in reaching out to foundations, and she was always very motivated by this contact with the patients. And many of the members of my group it's giving them a different dimension to, and really a meaning purpose, to the fundamental research that they do. So for me, it's actually an advantage because I don't have to do so much because they get motivated by that. And yeah, I love to see that because it's it's just beautiful. Some also one PhD student I remember told me, "Oh, chronic diseases are so boring. These diseases are so much more special." And it's true. I mean, what I think also the beauty is that sometimes we have like these breakthroughs with like a massive impact. Really, I mean, we can change the situation of a family from something that looks very desperate to a big impact, whereas in the chronic disease, 4 years and 4 years, we do incremental progress. But here sometimes we have this almost from no hope to a lot of hope, and it's just nice.
Very good. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
amazing. I had the similar question, Crystal. So thank you for asking. But what sparked me was when you said the ontology or the beginning of your curiosity in research was also to help humans
Yeah.
in a way. And I think that when you infuse that in the beginning, right, of your journey,
Yeah.
that just really keeps blossoming and showing up to the people that you attract, to the things that you're working on. So I think that growth, the growth from doing science to help humanity, and then specifically when you can come into a rare community
Mhm.
and then see your impact. That's really what creates that meaning for
Mhm.
you and everyone in your circle. And so thank you for sharing that,
No problem.
being
It's
a
my
human.
pleasure.
Well, so Carol, what's your wish list, going into
Yeah,
futurescaping here?
yeah, yeah.
What are you envisioning in terms of your lab environment, the impact that you can make in Luxembourg and
Yeah,
Europe and the world, maybe the collaborations that we could do, what are you
yeah, good
hoping
question.
for? Yeah.
Actually, so I have started here. What my wish for Luxembourg is really, I mean, we are such known for being such a wealthy country, and everybody wants to come here because of that. And actually, we are nowhere with rare disease care, So we are really not a good systematic way of getting
Mm,
the patients diagnosed, and a lot of this odyssey here. And I had started an initiative. There is certainly political will to do it, and there we have a national rare disease plan. Since now we are in the second phase of that one,
mhm,
which is already a very good step. It's by the way, it's a health plan, so it's not a research plan. It's really about the more the social part of helping the families. And we, by the way, we have a very that I wanted to connect also Laura and you with very active rare disease association, which in Luxembourg, Alan, which are involved heavily in that rare disease plan. But of course, they see also the need for the research and to connect with the researchers. And I see especially the need to connect everybody, the patient organization, the researchers, the medical doctors, and our diagnostic laboratories and so on. And so we have started trying to bring all that small world in Luxembourg together to use our resources better and to streamline much more the apply genome sequencing more systematically, and put more people on the analysis of the data, so that at least you get a molecular diagnosis. And then what is good is that of course we are in these European networks, for reference networks. So I think that's a nice setup here in Europe, where once you have the diagnosis that you get, however, relatively rapidly the good expert advice specifically on your disease, even if the excellence center is in a different country. So I think for us the step is really, and that's a motivation for me here nationally to try to make that much better, because we can do much better, I think.
mhm,
So that's one thing, as a more let's say national health system thing. In terms of the research, what I'm very I will continue also on the fundamental side, in terms of, because we are discovering all these genes, but then when you don't know what the gene is doing, it's also not so great. So I always do that work still in that perspective, to not be in that situation. So just elucidate the gene functions that we don't know yet. And there's actually 6,000 genes that we still don't know what they do out of 20,000, right? So I think there's still a lot of work to do there. But in terms of the treatments, I have a lot of hope towards these also like antisense oligonucleotides and these things, because I see so promising results with that, presentations in the conferences, that gives, I think, a good hope that we will do a lot of progress in that
mhm.
sense. So
Wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, I'll just make a hope, a manifestation, as I flash here on the screen our Rare Givers emotional journey map. We've built this tool, this discussion tool, as a way to bring people together, families, professionals, researchers, caregivers, and have a conversation about the different stages that families may go through and the feelings that may come up. And that is the universal sort of human experience, is that we all have feelings as we're going through our various different roles in supporting these different stages. And we're grateful to Foundation Ipsen, who has really led the way for us in our efforts to become more multilingual. So taking a tool like that can be a talking point, a flashpoint for everybody to come together
Mhm.
and translate. We're working on our French translation first,
Mhm.
so we're hoping that we can gather, really convene those various different stakeholders. And I
Mhm.
sure would love to see it happen in Luxembourg. So once we get that French translation done, let's get it over to Carole and her team, have you take a look at it, and then let's manifest an opportunity for us to
Yeah.
do some global collaborations together. That's my wish. Laura, do you have any wishes on your wish list?
I would love that too.
Yeah.
It's I believe that because it's such a small country, I guess, I mean, it's my first visit there, but that collaboration seems to be a little bit easier, maybe. I'm not sure, but the bringing all of the stakeholders together, as you said,
Yeah, yeah,
Crystal.
of course. I mean, that's actually a bit the paradox, right? It's a perfect country to
To
do that
do it.
very, very well, but it's not yet the case. So,
Well,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's still something to do.
Laura is an incredibly gifted, transformative
Hmm.
coach and brings a really deep wisdom. So here's what I can picture. I can picture a
Right.
half day retreat in Luxembourg with all of the different stakeholders,
Oh yeah,
rare family members, our researcher team,
totally, totally.
and metabolic specialists, and
Yeah,
bring in our nonprofit partners, Alan and Rare Disease
yeah,
International,
yeah, definitely. It
and
would
the
be great.
medical doctors as well. We'll just do this convening, but we'll layer in some sound baths and some like thoughtful conversations and make sure everybody's feeling on cloud nine before they walk out the door. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, true. Maybe it will accelerate our progress as well, right?
Yes,
Somebody
now
like
we're
that.
talking. Now we're
Yeah, I think that
talking.
when you
Okay.
do experience it yourself, and I wanted to get back. There was one thing that Crystal asked that I'm also curious about of the self-care for you and you personally, because that's something that I kind of saw in this laboratory environment, which the day-to-day is tedious sometimes,
Yeah,
I'm sure. And
yeah,
so yes, we all have these feelings and emotions, and they're important and powerful, and
yeah.
we need to pay attention. In the journey map that Raregivers created is points to all those places where in a rare community you will land, and also those are very applicable to all of the researchers, to all of the professionals. So
I have zero
that's what we're
problem
trying to do.
believing that.
But more specifically for you, what is it that you do for your own self? I know you have a family and many things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, 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 for sure. I have had periods where I think I started applying those tools, and I still do apply them. I mean, I am very aware of how important the mental well-being is. I personally, I do a lot of sports, and that helps me a lot. But also just, this definitely mindfulness, and I use techniques like this to keep my balance and find in stressful situations the strength to continue and to overcome certain difficult moments. So no, I think, of course, like if you go through these things, you get yourself much more aware of how important that is. I mean, maybe some people are lucky and always are like super balanced and everything, but I know what it is, and I value those techniques a lot, and I'm aware, and I can also in that way support my people who I know, I mean, sometimes go through, and so I encourage that a lot, and I can see the.
Wonderful. You heard it. You heard it here,
I know.
or straight from Luxembourg, as the case may be. So, Carole, thank you. so much for
Thank
taking
you.
the time today. And
It's a very nice conversation. Thank
yes, very,
you.
very much looking forward to collaborating with you. And for now, we'll just do what we always do, which is send some positive energy out into our community, send some virtual hugs, and we'll say thank you, wrapping up this issue
Thank
of
you very much.
empowering rare givers. Thank you.
Thank you all.